I was in Lexington, Kentucky for a few days there. I had no idea that Lexington, Kentucky was on the Eastern time zone. Just doesn't seem to make sense to me for some
Since
reason.
it's more
But
central.
yeah, I mean, it's basically like right straight down from the Great Lakes,
Yeah. Well,
Cleveland
they're all Eastern.
or Columbus.
Yeah.
Are they? Jeez. Where's the line? That's what I want to know. Where's the line? It's like they planned the line just to mess with me. Like,
They're just like, wait, where did you want to go?
wait, that guy in the future?
So
Yeah.
all of Michigan is in Eastern time zone. Most of Indiana.
Well, Kentucky spans all the way over under Illinois.
So
Dang.
most of Indiana and Kentucky, well, yeah, let's just say 50% of Kentucky is in Eastern. And
Oh,
are you looking at like,
interesting.
by chance?
I'm just looking at a regular map, not a time zone
So
map.
I'm looking at a time zone map, and you should see how weird Indiana is. There's like two
I'm gonna.
two sections of it in the north side and the south side that are just like central time zone.
What? Oh yeah, look at that. Gerrymandering for time zones.
Yeah, there you go.
Jeez,
It's crazy.
okay. Well, that makes more sense. Yeah, it was pretty cool little conference, and it's a beautiful place for sure. A lot of cool history and heritage. The whole Bourbon Trail and the
you went
horse
there
capital
for
of
the
the world,
booze.
basically. It was a nice piece of it. Yeah. But it was like the first 2 days, I thought I was only 2 hours ahead. And then by the time I finally got the whole jet lag thing taken care of, I had to come back. I came back and, oh my God, it just conquered me.
So when you said that you wanted to record at 5:00 my time, which time did you mean?
Yeah. I thought I meant 2 p.m. my time, but then my calendar was still in the East Coast time zone. So it was coming up on 5:00 for me. I'm super confused. Yeah. Anyway, the state of my life nowadays, it seems.
Yeah. Well,
At least you can relate.
I mean, it's funny. It's like, so people on my project right now, I have people on Pacific time zone. I have people in Central time zone. I have people on Eastern time zone. I have people in London. I have people in Riyadh. And then I have people in Dubai. And they are all different time zones.
Yeah, geez.
And so, it's just like, okay. So so when we log into meetings, we kind of do why am I blanking on the Jim Carrey movie, Truman Show,
I don't know.
where he's just like,
Okay.
if I don't see you, good day, good morning, good afternoon, and good
Yeah.
night. So we basically start our meetings. It's just like, good morning, good afternoon, good day. How are you all doing? And we pretty much have it all covered. I've defaulted to just saying, hello all.
Hello.
it's
Nice to
it's
see
a
you.
lot easier to just say hello all instead of sitting saying, hi, what time is it for you? Oh, you're almost
Right.
done with your
Yeah.
day and I'm just starting
Yeah.
mine. That's literally the craziest part of it, is just like that. Sometimes we're having meetings where it's like 5:00 in the afternoon for them, and it's like early morning, like 7 a.m. for us.
It's got to make it hard to hit deadlines.
It does, because a lot of times they'll say we want it by close of business, and we'll say close of business for who? And they'll say, oh no, close of business for us. But that means if you want it on Thursday, close of business Thursday, that means you really want it from us on Wednesday.
Normally, we're in that position with our consultants. I'll give them a deadline 2 days ahead of mine so that we can coordinate and look for any errors. And you're in the position of power now. Now you're saying that they're in the position of power here.
They are, because client, money, them, us,
right.
That kind of thing.
I have you heard this quote before from Disney? We don't make movies to make money. We make money to make more movies.
Yeah.
I love that quote because it's like it's their why. It's like, why do we exist? Right. And it what's interesting about it is there's a lot of talk in the entree architect community, profit before art, and there's also like the starving artists out there who, architects don't go to business school, and et cetera, et cetera. So there's always like this tug of war over what matters. And but I was thinking about this from a process point of view, and thinking about having, where ideas come from. So you're talking about schedule, and like one of the famous sayings about schedule is like creativity doesn't happen on the clock, right? Like it's not a scheduled, now is the time to be creative. So it just shows up whenever it shows up, right? Like that's kind of how it works. And it's hard to plan a project around being creative. And that's why we're professionals, damn it, because we can be creative when we need to be, if I guess. But everybody who has done design work has struggled with, writer's block or whatever the architect version of that is. It's like you kind of sit there at the blank page. We've all done this in school, right? And it's like, oh crap, I'm totally an imposter right now. The ideas don't just show up automatically. Right. And then there's people in the firm who are like, you get the fun job.
Oh
and,
my gosh, yes.
So they obviously have the terrible job, I guess. I don't know what they're trying to say by that, because it's false. And so, just thinking about this process of what you go through and kind of how you train yourself to be creative and how you work, and like knowing yourself and knowing how you work. And there's just a lot of thoughts around this. But I was thinking from, getting back to this process idea, kind of relating it back to this Disney quote, is like there's an expectation that I think it's like a general public and potentially people inside of our firms too, who think that, well, you have all the ideas and then you just draw them out and you're done, right? Like that's how it works. It's a very linear process. And we know it is absolutely not a linear process. It's the squiggliest line you've ever seen kind of a process. And a lot of times, kind of like neurons in your brain that are firing, like something will connect with something else that you had no idea was going to connect. And it just works this time, right now, at least for a moment. So you don't just have an idea and then draw it, but through the act of drawing, the drawing gives you ideas that you further pursue. And I think that is just a really interesting concept and something worth chatting about. I mean, because I think we also tend to get away from that in our professional careers when it really does become about the business of architecture, and we start to get into these standards and systems for producing and delivering drawings through a very kind of regimented process. And like, how does creativity and how does that process of creativity and not knowing how the dots are going to connect dovetail into the day-to-day business of architecture? So enlighten us.
Enlighten us.
How's that work?
Great.
I mean, have you felt that before? Like you through the act of sketching and through the act of rolling out some more trace and layering it on top, and whoa, I just saw something that I never saw before. Like that to me is one of the most rewarding parts of the design process.
And to be quite honest with you, I mean, I've been stuck in the drudgery or the not so fun side of the project right now with doing a lot of like paperwork and project management. And I've been trying to step back into like, not necessarily the project architect role, but at least stepping into helping out wherever somebody's like stuck, or maybe something isn't quite the most elegant of solutions, and just, talking through with them, kind of like imparting a little bit of wisdom, but also just rolling my sleeves up a little bit and having a little bit of fun talking about the process of why certain like programmatic elements should be the way they are and what makes a far more elegant solution, and just like drawing through. And so I'll say that the bummer about all of that is that I don't roll out my trace paper. However, I do have a nice new computer that the office gave me, which has a touch screen and has a stylus, and I can draw on the the screen. And so we can actually basically treat like whatever I see in the Zoom window as trace. And, we did a lot of tracing today, trying to figure out where the best place to put a electrical room is, because apparently where we wanted to put it was a little too far for where the electrical engineers wanted it. So, but by moving it had impacts on some pretty significant, project elements or program elements. And so, we just kind of kept going through iteration after iteration till we felt a little exhausted. Like, well, let's stew a little bit. Let's,
step
away, and we do that, we do that with traces, because we kept staring at it. It was just like, doesn't work. Don't like it. This problem, this problem, this problem. And so it's like, what is it? That old adage of like Edison, found like, 1,000 ways of not being able to make a light bulb. I don't know.
The ways it doesn't work. Yeah.
Well, we found those 1,000 ways in the,
And so, exactly. But every time you're doing that, you're learning something.
Exactly.
And that's the process.
Exactly.
It's not like you wanted to do it wrong 1,000 times.
Well, it was just like, ooh, this will work. And then we're like, oh crap, this has got a stack. And as you bring it down, it's like, okay, this electrical room is now going through the exhibition hall, and we don't want it to go through the exhibition hall. We want to go, we want it to be banked over here. Oh, well, they don't want it next to like the stairs and the elevator. I'm like, okay, well,
it's like this cascading event of constraints.
And so you just like try to figure out, it's just like, okay, so do we split the stairs? No, now we have 2 stairs, instead of 1 stair. We just kept going through it. And honestly, I'd stepped away for a little while, and the project architect had texted me through Zoom, and she was like, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, yeah, that works. That works.
Perfect.
I mean, we all stepped away. We kind of,
I don't care where good ideas come from as long as they show up.
We went through a lot of different like rules of like what you need to look for and what we need to like, do, because I mean, she is a younger project architect, but she's definitely, knows how to plan things out and stuff. It's just, there are some things like ratings and egress and things like that, we're talking about as we're going through all these iterations. And so she's like just absorbing all of the, kind of like the technical information side of things, and using her creativity, and pulled something together. And it was like, yeah, this absolutely works.
It's interesting. Like, I just started to think about how we had this conversation a couple episodes ago about how notes in there, like a note to your future self when you go back and read them. And like the sketches that we're talking about are kind of like that too. And it's interesting at the end of a project to go back and kind of, okay, I'm going to go through the process now of kind of archiving how we got here. Not just because my sketches are so awesome, but because you want to remember how and why you made decisions along the way, because questions will come up later.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it's like, how did we actually get here? Man, that was 3 years ago. Was that, and I can't remember if I was on the yellow roll of trace or if I was on the white roll of trace. You do need to be able to pull this stuff back up. And it's interesting to think about how these old sketches have a similar ability to speak to a future version of yourself later on, but also how they have a life to them. Same thing goes for physical models, digital models. Like, there's something to them that is kind of a living element to them, and they do kind of speak to you in certain ways. And what's interesting about a drawing specifically, and specifically further, one that you've drawn with your hands, is that you can convey information in ways that you can't in a very sterile CAD or BIM-like environment.
Right.
With the way you drew that line, like purposefully sketchy, purposefully caffeine lined, right? Versus a straight line, or the way you closed or didn't close a circle, or the way that the line just kind of runs off on its own. And it's like, it was the beginning of an idea and we didn't care where that idea ended, kind of a thing. I think that is kind of a fascinating part of the training that you and I went through. And that to me is something I would never want to give up personally.
So it's interesting you say that though, because today, I was just like, all we need to do, because she and I were talking, and I was just like, all you really need to do is just do a quick hand sketch. Let's go through a couple of iterations of it and just see what comes out of it. Let's just do that. And so when she was like, well, let me take a break and I'll kind of get back to it and I'll send you something. Take a wild guess what she sent me. A Revited model. It was
to scale.
She went into the model and redrew everything, changed everything around.
No, and for some people that is their sketching. Like I'm not griping against that. And like some people can put together a Grasshopper script and that is their sketching. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, for me personally, it is interesting what can be conveyed in an analog or acoustic hand sketch that you have one or two or pens that you're using that you can do with line weights, that you can do with angles, that you can do with smears and smudges and flipping the trace over and like all, using your markers to fill things in. I think it's really interesting the amount of information that's actually encoded in that drawing that doesn't have a lot of use for anybody else, maybe, or maybe it does. I don't know. I shouldn't say it doesn't, but it is really interesting to see what's encoded in there. And the reason I bring it up is because I think there is a big push for our output nowadays to look sterile or to look consistent. I don't know the right word that I'm actually looking for there, but there definitely is like a sterility to it because of that's what the computer has brought to it. And I'm not trying to pick sides here. I'm a very techie person anyway, but
you of all people definitely aren't picking sides.
Yeah. I play both sides.
Well, so what's interesting though is, and maybe this is just the wrong way of thinking for today, but I've always viewed when you commit a sketch to CAD or Revit or whatever, like drafting tool of choice, it basically means that, you're done with the exploration. You've put it all in, you've drafted it up and you're sort of set to move on to the next item. And whereas I've always thought that, when you're hand sketching, you're kind of just exploring and you're continuing to explore until you get to the point where you feel like, okay, yeah, this one feels right. Let's go ahead and test it out in the CAD waters and see whether or not like my big fat pen sketch really actually works.
actually works for real building tolerances.
Right. And so, and so I've always been kind of hesitant in my process of jumping too quickly into CAD. However, there is an expectation now.
That's all you do.
That's all we do is digital drafting or digital sketching and things. And so it was interesting because today we gave a presentation to the client that was mostly about interiors, but there was a lot of hand sketches in it, and they didn't react as well as we thought they would.
They just had an expectation that all forms of communication will be digital.
Would be rendered. It's just like, well, why don't I have, these photorealistic renderings of these spaces? Like, well, we're not there yet. I mean, first of all, we want to talk about the process. We want to talk about here's our palette, and we've created a hierarchy for our palette, and we want to talk about, are we in the right mind for what we're talking about specifically about, like, finish this palette, and
before we make decisions,
before we actually start committing it to renderings. And they're like, well, I really can't, I don't understand what you're drawing. And what was amazing is that, the people who were presenting had hand sketches of interior spaces that were, colored, and they were well thought out pieces of, like areas that we wanted to talk about, but they weren't rendered to photorealistic quality like the renderings that we did at the end of our concept design, which was a requirement for us to go to the board for approval. And so they're just like, well, you did all of these. Why aren't I seeing rendering qualities like that? Do you know how long it took us to do that? And do you know how like the back and forth. We want to start the schematic design process with the back and forth, the conversations, here is our thoughts.
The inclusivity.
Exactly. And people are so committed to it because then, sure enough, they said, well, what you showed in your CGIs is exactly what we want to see. No variations. So we're like, okay, well, in our mind, we're like, okay, well, we're set in stone. Literally, all we have to do now is just make it work because, like, the design, apparently there's no flexibility in the design from what was shown, and it's just like, wow, this really does feel a little cart before the horse.
Yeah, and it's interesting because different clients going to be different. You get some clients who are like, never show me a concept sketch again. I only want to see it if it can be possible, if it will be built
Right.
like that. Then there's other ones who are like, we have no idea what we want. We were hoping you would show us some options, right? So it's such a grab bag out there. And it just proves time and time again that the process is never the same twice in a row.
No.
I mean, I guess it could be the same.
I mean,
sometimes,
the at least the linear process of like, I'm going to go from here to here to here to here, but how you get there meanders a little bit.
Yeah, right. It goes back to that squiggly line.
Exactly.
Comment. Yeah,
exactly. And because there's been times where I've relished, and in fact, actually wowed clients by sitting in front of them and sketching out the ideas that they're talking about right in front of their eyes by hand, just sketching. It's not the, oh, well, I'm going to take notes and thank you. I'll go back and I'll, throw it in the old CAD machine and crank it all up and see what comes out kind of thing. No, it's let us talk. Let us talk through visualization. My hand is good enough to be able to like draw out and represent to them a very clear and concise idea of what they're talking about, and at least just say, is this what you had in mind? And then they can look at it and they're like, nah, or yeah, and that is equally as telling and also a good part of the process, because if they've got a visceral reaction against like what you just sketched, well then you have the opportunity right in front of them to see if you can hone it more towards what they're actually thinking. And
yeah, I think that definitely is super powerful. And then I also think that you need to somehow be able to communicate that, like you said earlier, you needed to step away.
Yes.
And let your subconscious chew on something for a while, right? Because it actually delivers in many ways if you give it the time and the space to do that. And that doesn't happen on a schedule either, but you can, like I've gotten to the point where I can trust it to actually come through.
Can I tell you that I've heard more times than I would care to in the not so recent months, like, I'm not really looking for an answer right now. Long pause. But what is the answer right now?
Right. I am now going to say the opposite thing that I am about to say.
Or like,
thinking,
you don't have to tell me right now, but how soon can you get that to me?
Right. And there's always somebody eager to say, oh, we got that for you right now.
Oh, yeah, I can get that to you tonight. Like,
not the person who actually has to do the figuring.
Like, come on, man, really?
Right.
You're not the one doing it. and I will say,
at least respect me enough to check first.
I will say that in the virtual world, when we're having virtual meetings, and a lot of times, and most of the time, actually, we'll have people who will not be on camera. And here we are, we're talking and all this other stuff. And they'll say, well, when do you want that? You're like, oh, we can get it to you tonight. And then other people will be texting me, really? Why are we promising it right now? Can't we have a little bit of time to think about it?
Yeah. The royal
exactly.
who didn't get to decide.
The royal we, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I just thought it was kind of interesting to think about this again because I haven't been working on projects very much. But it is kind of
right?
the...
Boy, do I have a project for you.
Oh, man. No, thanks. I get to hear my wife screaming about Revit almost every day. She's, oh, my God. It's like, Autodesk, please fix that.
I do know that several of the buildings that I'm working on are things that are in your wheelhouse.
I'm so glad that other people are aware of my wheelhouse.
Oh, trust me,
You have plenty of things for me
you
to
have
do.
actually shared photographs of said project in your wheelhouses that
similar
work,
project types in
exactly,
my wheelhouse.
that work perfectly
Yeah.
with what I'm needing.
If you could just duplicate that,
Yeah.
great.
But then,
Welcome to
then turn it
architecture.
into this, which I still
Yeah.
can't talk about yet.
Yeah, that's all right. The romantic part of our communicating through sketching and drawing
Exactly.
is. I like to go back there with my mind.
I will say though that the most of our engineers will request us setting up the meeting requests so that we can go through Zoom rather than Teams, because
Oh yeah.
you just share your screen. People can, like, any and everybody can draw over the top of it. You can just save your screen and you just have a record. And what's interesting about it is that what Zoom does is it will, like, anything that you do, whether it's a chat or like a screen capture through their tool, it will file it under that particular meeting. And so you're just like,
Right.
okay, I had a meeting about electrical rooms, which today I had a meeting about electrical rooms, and we did a bunch of sketching over the top of it. I did a couple of screen caps, and at the end of the meeting, once I hung up, it popped up with the folder of that, and I can just basically take all of that and move it into the meeting minutes folder, and there I've got some digital records of some of the things that we talked about.
Yeah. Do you guys record all your meetings?
We don't. So we do with the client. We don't with just the regular meetings, which we probably should.
Careful.
Well, no.
Lawyers, discovery, all that good stuff.
I mean, most of the time, like with the client, they just say, is there any objections to recording this meeting? And nobody comes off mute. So they, okay.
I think I just asked because I think it's more the norm now that they are.
It sort of is. And every time I go through these like meetings with like our engineers, I'm like, man, I wish I was recording this. Only because a lot of times, and I don't know about you, I mean, I have a notepad that I have sitting right next to my left hand. So as I'm talking, I'm clicking with my right hand and I'm writing things down with my left hand, and I'm talking out the big hole in my face.
It's like, what's he going to call it?
Exactly. And, but the problem is that because I'm doing a lot of talking, I can't be writing at the same time. And a lot of times I'm like, man, I wish I could have recorded that because I don't even remember what I just said or what they said.
Yeah. Stream of consciousness. I think that there's some additional tools that we use at our company. That one's called Grain, and it's a plugin for Zoom, and it's automatically transcribes the whole meeting for you. And in the, I didn't mean for this to turn into a conversation about teleconferencing technologies, but if you go to grain.co, I think you'll see it, or it's in the Zoom app store. But it's pretty awesome because it syncs up the transcription to the video, so you can highlight the transcription and it will save a video clip, and then you can string a series of clips together to tell a story from a meeting that is much more succinct than watching the whole meeting again. So if you wanted to send that to somebody, that's fantastic. You just send them a link and it takes them to the story on the Grain website. Now, it also allows you to basically create a bunch of bookmarks within a meeting for when people said certain things, and you can always just pull those out individually and save them out, or just provide links to those pieces as well. So if you are doing, like, I've done meeting minutes before, and I'll just pop the link in there to where that was actually said, and it's a video of who said it and exactly what they said, and it's fully searchable too. So you get these really long meetings that are happening over video, which it's impossible to think about finding some content that was spoken about in that meeting. You actually can. It's pretty incredible. And there's other tools out there too, but that's the one we use.
I know.
Pretty cool. It just takes discipline to go back through those meetings and find those pieces that are then useful in the future, instead of just the whole thing as like this big archive, because then you're swimming in a sea of meeting videos that are 2 hours
Yes.
long, and nobody wants to do that.
Exactly. Agree.
Yeah, so this helps kind of focus in on certain pieces of content within the meeting. Pretty cool.
Well, again, not that we wanted to talk about how to do this, but, in a way, because it sort of like interlinks in with how we're meeting today, when we would be sitting around a table and rolling out a piece of trace and slapping it over the top of it, we've got to find interesting and, new ways of doing it, and being able to record and transcribe and do the digital captures.
And that piece of trace, like, you can go back to it later, right? And that is the bookmark I'm talking about in this grain digital version of a Zoom meeting, right? So it is useful for sure. I mean, it is pretty incredible, the tech that we're seeing. And we're never going back to hand drawing as far as like a deliverable. I know there's some people who can still, get away with that. Lucky or not, depends who you are. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to waste time lamenting that. But at the same time, there's some useful stuff that came out of that. And that's the kind of thing that I think is worth talking about. Like taking the best things of the past and the best things of the now to create the best version of the future that we can.
Absolutely.
All right. So go watch Disney movies so they can make more movies.
Yes.
Go do a lot of drawings because the drawings give you ideas.
Although, did you see that they did push back like a handful of the MCU and Disney movies?
Oh, no, really?
So there's a handful of like the movies that they've kind of like shifted their schedules. Like, I'm going to push this back another year.
That's a long time.
Come on now.
I want my entertainment.
I haven't seen a good MCU movie. And although I can say that we've seen plenty of good MCU TV shows.
Did you guys see? Did you go see Black Widow?
So we were in Michigan when it came out, and we were at my wife's family's house, staying with her cousin. And her cousin husband is a big Disney, Star Wars, MCU fan, and he's like, "Hey, you guys want to do a rent Black Widow?" And they've got a big old TV, and so we're like, "Sure, why not?"
So you did that. You didn't go.
So we didn't go to the theaters. We did that, and
we actually saw that one in the theater.
Yeah, it was good.
Visuals were incredible.
I honestly admit that I was expecting less, and got pleasantly surprised that it was a heck of a lot more than I expected. And I really, I don't know. I mean, there's those few characters within the MCU. It's just like Black Widow, Hawkeye. Really, do we need these guys? Oh.
All the stories. I think that's their mantra. Let's tell all the stories.
Yeah. And so there's going to be a Hawkeye movie coming out soon, or a show or something like that. And so I'm kind of excited about a lot of these different, just like tangent stories and things like that. So I was really sort of hoping that they'd keep going with all these Star Wars stories.
I watched the first
anyone
one.
Says I like Solo.
I haven't watched the other ones. Oh yeah, me too.
So nah.
Fight us.
Yeah. Bring it. and I am actually looking forward to Kenobi.
Oh, heck yeah. That's because we're old.
And truth be told, come on, bring on the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you, man. All three counts here. Do this. Okay, so we're thinking like maybe do some talk about the James Bond movie.
Yes. Yeah. And it was funny. It's like, you're like, okay, you're going to go see the James Bond movie. And you're like, oh, dang it. I know I was supposed to do the same thing.
It'll come. I can be patient.
Yeah. Well,
it's good.
I'm
very good.
I'm actually looking very much forward to it.
Yeah. I saw it on a very big screen. It was very impressive. Cool, man. Till next time.
Yes. See ya.
Thanks for listening. This show is part of the Gable Media Podcast Network. See all the shows at gablemedia.com. That's GABLMEDIA.com. You can help support what we're doing here by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts to help get the word out, and don't forget to share it with your friends. We'd love to hear from you, so leave a comment on the website at archispeakpodcast.com, where you can find our entire catalog of shows. Talk to you soon.